of them are important. But if you don't know where you are, you just ain't gonna show up where you think you want to be. You could be on the interstate that go north and south, and you jump on that thing and you going one way thinking you going north, and you going south. See, that's gonna be your demise. Okay? So without a financial GPS, and you heard James talking about it, you got to have a financial GPS. I like to call it a financial blueprint. Now, this gentleman who I'm gonna bring, before you. Now, this is I can't even say a childhood friend because he older than me, but anyway, he took care of me. He got me to school, okay? And he gonna tell you his story, but he don't come from a W-2 environment. He was a graduate, or he is a graduate from Georgia Tech, and we call him the professor. Now, he's going to break down and just show you what you have access also in your back office so you could get or know where you're going or know where you're at in order to get where you want to be. So without any further ado, I like to bring on my brother. I call him my little brother, but he's older than me. He's my big brother, Michael Duran Holmes. Light, camera, and action. The floor is yours, sir.
All right. Hey, the biggest thing I want to do is always, guys, we want to turn it right back over to the people that, as he says, he was, hold on one second, guys. I had my little puppy came in right quick. I apologize. Let me shut my door. So we had a lot of things coming in, and the biggest thing we want to do is turn it right back over to Mr. Hill. So, Mr. Hill, I thank you for everything. And guys, I always make this joke here. I've been friends with Terrence since I was taller than him, right? And I'm 5'5" at this point in time, so that's a long time ago, right? But we do have a long history together. And guys, what I'm going to do with you today is share with you a little bit of my testimony as I share with you my screen and everything. To show you the cash flow strategist, okay? Like we were talking about a blueprint, for where you want to go and how you want to actually live your life financially, so that you can live your life, on purpose, as everybody is saying, and everybody is aware this is our My Econ back office, okay? So when you log in, you'll see your BMC home and you can simply go to your tools area, okay? And then what we're talking about, like we said, is a cash flow strategist. And, to give you a little bit of my background, I have different businesses that I've been operating. And what we'll do is I'll use one for the example here. And just a little brief background of myself. Like you said, I don't have the W-2 background. It's been maybe 20-something years since I've had a regular, quote unquote, job. Nothing wrong with jobs. I was just raised a little differently. Everybody in my school, everybody in my family rather went to school, and I'm like my second generation of going to college. So it's just everything that we heard, was talking about how to do for your next level, right? And I had my first home. I partnered with my mom at 18 years old, buying my first home. So we were always taught to, go after something and don't leave everything into your job, right? Don't leave everything there. There's nothing wrong with it, but don't leave everything there. Create for yourself some options. So over the last, 30 years or so, I've been buying properties and land and those types of things. And, I know a lot of you may be familiar with the 2008, 2008, 9, around in that time, right? So that's when the mortgage crisis happened and everything. At that point in time, I had almost 62 houses, so I say this, because it's not, I remember Mr. Hall was saying that it's not what we want to do is just run after revenue, run after income, right? And if that was the case, I should have been fine because I had 62 houses, but I didn't have the knowledge and the education. So when everything happened, and just like this pandemic that we're going through right now, when I went through that particular bad situation, I lost everything. And because I didn't understand the difference between cash flow and income, all I had was income, even though it was high income. But when you have high debt and the income is no longer there, then what do you have, right? You have no more business. So that's what I found in My Econ was a way to understand. I knew how to generate money. I knew how to make businesses happen. I knew those things, but it was something that was missing. And it was a way to see, a reflection of where I am, and how I can get to the next step. And of course, and this is what this is going to help us to do. So when you have your cash flow strategist, it's simple. You want to, give it a name, whatever that is for, it could be your home, it could be for your business or whatever you're calling it at a particular time. Okay. And then what you want to do is we're going to go over your top 5 financial goals. And those are accordingly to, how you're positioned right now. What we do when we talk about it, we go over with our enrollees when we're talking about our game plan, our strategy game plan. And see, what we do is we look over here and say, okay, what is it that you want to do? The first thing we talk about our personalized cash flow plan, which gives them a direction of what they want to do. Then we come and say, okay, hey, analyze your direction accordingly to what's the most valuable for you. Okay. And when you do that, then something miraculously happens. I don't know what happens, but when you start to, if anybody's ever done anything with goals, when you start to write down your goals, something just miraculously happens, right? And that's the same thing happens when you start to track and manage your income. Every 90 days, you see something miraculous happens. And I won't go into that. Everybody has said that so far, but that's what starts to happen. So you start to outline what's most valuable for you. And you say your time, your family's most valuable, then you owe it to yourself to give yourself a financial blueprint or a GPS so you'll know exactly what's happening with you and your family, right? So is it increasing your income, reducing taxes, buying a new home, making major purchase, paying off debts? And you can go over these things for yourself and analyze and see what's best for you, okay? So when you align these things, now it's going to produce something that is what? Ideal for you and your family, right? So now when we're talking about the retirement freedom goal, okay? Because so many times, what do? We go through school and people say, hey, I don't want to do more studying. I don't want to do the get inside and actually taking the tracking. I want somebody else to do those things. Like, Mr. Howard was saying, hey, I want the IRS to look over my money and then give me a lump sum, right? But no, what we want to do is we want to get ourselves involved and say, hey, I spent 12 years in school. And then when I got out of school, some people go to another 4 years and some people go another more years after that. So all these times was trying to get yourself to a place to where you can have freedom. But when you don't have freedom within your money, then all of that goes to waste. Okay. And let me tell you, it went to waste. Okay. So what you have here is an ideal way to say, hey, what's the least amount of money do I desire retirement? What is it that I can live on? Okay. 6,000, 5,000, 10,000, what is that for you? Right. And then let's get something straight, right? When you retire, it's not based upon income. I mean, it's not based upon your age. It's based upon your cash flow, right? If you have enough cash flow that overcomes your debt, it's all gone. You have enough cash flow to overcome your expenses, right? Then you can comfortably retire. And then you got everything else in place to where your assets are producing assets for you. So you have all kinds of things ready. So you can even have things left for your children's children if you follow the My Econ strategies, okay? And so your latest year, you plan to retire 2035. How much retirement income do you plan to receive from places like your Social Security, pensions? As Mr. Hill mentioned before, it's not readily available. The Social Security, right? Pensions, those things are not really given anymore. And if it is, like I said, for instance, Social Security, they already estimated that it's going to be 75% there, right? Not 100%. Even though you've given 100%, but let's not get into that, okay? So what's the approximate amount in your investment portfolio? You have in mutual funds, 401ks, IRAs, those type of things. Let's look and see there, okay? And then how much money do you currently invest in long-term savings? And when you start with this, these are your numbers. So you want to see exactly what's happening. Start from, if it's zero, say zero, okay? Whatever those situations are, because you want to make sure that you end up with your family with that financial freedom goal, okay? Then how much additional money can you scrap up, and we'll help you with that as we align different things with your W-4 adjustments. You're getting out of reducing your expenses, reducing taxes, right? You have more money to actually invest when you be able to increase your cash flow, right? So how much money do you have set aside for emergencies? we definitely, suggest that you have at least 6 months of living expenses, but we want to start with right where you are. Okay. So as we look at those things, we want to calculate accordingly to what we need as we're going forward. Okay. So as you look at those things, now you're comfortably able to answer number 8. Do you feel like you have a plan in place to accomplish that retirement goal, right, in your desired time frame? And if it's no, then that's something that we gotta see about and see what we can do about that. A majority of the times, from what I've seen, 80% of the people, the only thing that they have in plan or a plan in place is that they think that this 401k that they have or a TSP that they have, but they don't have any insight about it. Okay. So my Econ helped me to have insight about the different retirement goals that I had and not just have to be totally reliant upon somebody else when they're dealing with my money. Okay. So now let's go into debt elimination because we're increasing cash flow. So what we do is we want to make sure we list your creditors, right? You've heard of, some people may have heard of the debt snowball, right? And so that's what we help you to do with this. So you want to list your creditors, anything that can be paid off, credit cards. Although we definitely suggest that if you do pay off a credit card, that you make sure that you leave a little bit on, right? Because you don't want to cut it out because it's going to take away from your history. So I'm sure Mr. Reed can definitely instruct you more about that position, but you want to put in all your creditors that can be paid off and get them down and out, right? And so you add all those in place, creditor 1, 349 owed, and you want to use your minimum payment, right? Where the persons that we were putting in before, and they would say, well, I pay a little bit more than that. That's great. But what we want to do is calculate by putting in your minimum payment so that we can calculate the other cash flow in the right places. Okay. So you want to use the exact numbers that you're working with. So your next one, 1479, 129 payment. The creditor, 9,000, maybe a car, 220 payment, right? You may have more, you may have less. And you just continually to add those on by simply pressing here by adding another debt. Okay. Now, your next thing is as you're increasing your cash flow, right? We're going through the different steps and instructions. So now we want to revisit recurring monthly expenses, right? So now let's say, for instance, cell phone, right? This is definitely a tax write-off, okay? A deduction for you, but also can you reduce the amount, right? So let's see, it's $179. Right now, by this example, we was able to reduce it by by $299, okay? So that's a monthly savings of $80. So this is what we want to do is reduce expenses. So that can be in any area that you can, right? If you have so many channels that you may not need, let's revisit that and let's reduce that amount of expenses, okay? If it's car insurance, revisit that. It may be to where you can do something different there, okay? But you want to revisit your plans because what? You have the money coming in, and we want to maximize that amount of money that's coming in by increasing your cash flow, by stopping things that are taken away from your cash flow, okay? So once you have these things done, you can come back and you return to your list, okay? And what you have in A, B, and C, the B will allow you to adjust things, okay? Right. So when you come back, you say, okay, hey, this is what it's looking like. Now, do I want to adjust something? Right. So what we're using to calculate these things, okay, because what we're doing here, we want to find out what is it going to take for me to retire? And what is it going to take for me to retire with the amount of money that I want? And then what is it going to take for me to retire with freedom? Okay. So where are those steps are you in and where are you going to settle? Okay. And if you are not planning, right, to actually, save your money, you're planning to lose your money, right? And right, Mr. Hall? Okay. So when you're looking at your freedom retirement, a dollar amount, this person said 6,000 that they needed. They had about $1,000 a month that that was projected to come in from Social Security and pension, which left them with only $5,000, right? With needing $5,000 per month at retirement. In order to have that, they highly suggest that not just have a lump sum in a mattress somewhere and you pension this $5,000 a month off of, right? Doesn't make a lot of sense. You want to have it somewhere returning at least 8% yearly return, okay? And what is it that you have at 8% yearly return in order to get this $5,000 a month, Michael? What you have to do is $750,000 is calculated, right? Now, the calculation, don't worry about that right now. Just understand that's what's necessary, okay? Now, what they had in value already, the assets they had was 36,000. So there's 36,000. The estimator, the software estimated that would go at an 8% return to $109,925.42. Okay, and see why we did this is because now we can subtract this amount because you need 750,000. Right? How close are you to having $750,000 if you want to retire on $6,000 a month? Okay. And then we said, hey, 36 is what we have. So we're going to subtract that amount after it has grown at 8%. And that leaves us with 640,000, average or so, or approximately. Okay. So in order for you to get that and retire at 2035, this is what's important. This is what's so awesome. This gives you can put your numbers in right now, and this will give you an estimate and say, hey, this will happen to me if I continue on this path. And if something happens like COVID, this, that, and the other, guess what? Majority of us that were following this, we still escalated, or we at least maintain through this process because we can go back and look at the GPS. We heard Siri saying what? Turn left, turn right, right? And this is what our Siri became, our GPS, okay? So for this, it's $2,000, well, $2,078.01. Now, this is what this person needs extra in order to retire at this date and with this amount. Okay, so now you can go back and say, okay, hey, what do I need to do to create an extra $2,000 a month? And that may be looking high, but when you start breaking down the strategies and you start to reduce your taxes, you start reducing debt, you start reducing expenses, and you start to seeing that money starts to grow, you can quickly see how you can gather an extra $2,000 a month if you continually following the instructions. And what I want to show you is something also powerful, but a lot of people will say, hey, come over here and sell our peel, potion, lotion, wrap, tea, whatever those things are. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not discounting anybody. But what we're saying is this: we're not asking you to do that. So we're going to say here, we're going to show in an extra $100 of business income per month. That's all we're saying. We're going to say, hey, in order to do this, we're going to show you doing an extra $100 a month, not an extra 1,000 a month, an extra 1,000, extra 100, right? And then, as we talked about adjusting the W-4, we've increased by $250 by changing the W-4. We had an extra $250, and most get this and a little bit more than $250. But once again, we're working with small figures so we can see how things are really going to be, right? So now let's look at it. The available cash, we had an extra $100 that we committed in the beginning, and then we reduced our expenses, throwing another $80 on the cell phone, so it's $180, right? So in totality, we came up to $530 with everything that we've acquired, all the new different things of cash flow increases that we've acquired, right? So with that increase, $530, we're not going to go and get a Benz, right? We're not going to go and buy we got some cash, now we're going to get some trash. No, we're going to make sure that this money works for us. We're going to put this money to work, right? So now we're coming back to the debt snowball, right? So now we had creditors here, 1, 2, and 3. So what we took the $530 and we took your current payment of $129 and we added the $530 to that. So we made it go to work right away. So now you have a new payment of $659, right? $659 going toward $1,479 only took 3 months and you're out of there, right? So now that $659 that's available for you to use to continue with. So we roll that right over to this payment here, $25 a month that you were paying on. And like you were saying before, you saw Miss Irene go through that process. If you continue making that $25, you can see you're going to go a long way. You're going to lose a lot of cash flow. But if you take it with a snowball, right, you can take this in one payment, gone, out of here. No more thought about, right? So that's 684 now that we got. 684 rolls into the 220, making it 904. So in just 10 short months, we're completely out of debt. Okay. Now, totally, it took us 14 months to eliminate. $10,000. $10,800. We have people, enrollees here, associates rather, here that have paid off $100,000 of debt. We have people that's cash flow, like Mr. Hill, over $800,000, right? So these things are only available to you when you can track and manage what you're doing. If you don't, then you're just thinking that I need a second job. I need to go over here, get this right here. I need to do this. I need to just keep throwing it on the fire, keep throwing it on the fire. But what's happening is the fire is never consumed, right? You got to get the debt out. You got to get all the other things so you can increase your cash flow and make the money work for you. Okay. So we're going to wrap this up. And so I know we have to get to our next steps, but we have total now $904. So we freed all this income up. Once again, we're not going to take this and go out and do something crazy. We're just going to say, hey, what? We're going to go over and we're going to apply it to the 8% of return, right? We're going to make the money, make more money to make more money. And going through here, when you go through here, you'll be able to see starting point 2021. And you can see here, your congratulations, you have achieved financial freedom. So you're saying, Mike, if I continue on this path in 2047, I will have $1,149,734.95 in my account. You doggone right? You sure enough right. So that's what's inspiring. So I don't have to go back and think about the next pandemic. I don't have to worry about those things because I've removed the potential harm that could happen. And then I also have a GPS that can walk me through every last step. Okay, so continue, guys. And I know this was kind of, pushed in here. So I'll make sure that everybody goes back and get your numbers and effectively study this on your own so you can see how effective it is. And, like I said, I want to turn this back over to our coach, our mentors. Everybody has said, is humbled and everything. And he may not say it, but we're talking about cash flow and getting out of debt, buying new homes, stuff like this. It's not to brag because he's not going to brag, but I will, because that's over $800,000. We came from the same place, and I'm gonna sign off because I'm gonna get our Holy Ghost stirred up in here. But I appreciate it, Mr. Hill. I'm turning it over right to you right now.
Hey, Mike. Hey, like we said at the beginning, if the spirit moves you, let it groove you. But thank you so much for the awareness. And ladies and gentlemen, awesome leader. That's why we call him the professor.